I'm Cyril Vanier. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha, and we're coming to you 90 seconds early because the chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee is about to announce the recipient of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Jonah Hull is in Oslo, where the announcement is about to take place. So, Jonah, anyone who searches online right now will see some names believed to be under consideration. But officially, the Nobel Committee does not say who they're looking at for the Peace Prize.
No, they don't, and it is really pure speculation as to who will win this prize. There is always this level of speculation. All we know for sure is that 285 nominations have been made to this five-person committee by politicians, public figures, heads of organisations all over the world, some of whom make their nominations public, and from that we derive a list that spans, well, the UN agency responsible for civilians in Gaza, to the International Court of Justice, to the emergency response teams in Sudan, international election monitors, frankly, all the way, if you can believe it, to Elon Musk. So it is really the most intense of guesswork at this point. We will not know the answer as to who has been awarded by the five-person committee until in just a few seconds' time. 10 seconds, they are very much precise and on time here. Those double doors behind me will open and the chairman of the Norwegian Nobel Committee will step out and make the committee's decision known. And I think, as we speak, that is happening.
Yeah, we're just 10 seconds by my clock past the top of the hour. That was Jonah Hull, and you're watching the scene live. The chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee is about to walk through that door and make the official announcement of who this year, in 2024, is being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's 9 GMT, it's 11 GMT in Oslo, Norway, and here we are.
Good morning, everyone. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Peace Prize for 2024 to the Japanese organization Nihon Hidankyo. This grassroots movement of atomic bomb survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, also known as Hibakusha, is receiving the Peace Prize for its efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons and for demonstrating through witness testimony that nuclear weapons must never be used again. In response to the atomic bombs attacks of August 1945, a global movement arose whose members have worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of using nuclear weapons. Gradually, a powerful international norm developed, stigmatizing the use of nuclear weapons as morally unacceptable. This norm has become known as the nuclear taboo. The testimony of the Hibakusha, the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, is unique in this larger context. These historical witnesses have helped to generate and consolidate widespread opposition to nuclear weapons around the world by drawing on personal stories, creating educational campaigns based on their own experience, and issuing urgent warnings against the spread and use of nuclear weapons. The Hibakusha helps us describe the indescribable, to think the unthinkable, and to grasp the incomprehensible pain and suffering caused by nuclear weapons. The Norwegian Nobel Committee wishes nevertheless to acknowledge one encouraging fact. No nuclear weapons have been used in war in nearly 80 years. The extraordinary efforts of Nihon Hidankyo and other representatives of the Hibakusha have contributed greatly to the establishment of the nuclear taboo. It is therefore alarming that today this taboo against the use of nuclear weapon is under pressure. The nuclear powers are modernizing and upgrading their arsenals. New countries appear to be preparing to acquire nuclear weapons, and threats are being made to use nuclear weapons as part of ongoing warfare. At this moment in human history, it is worth reminding ourselves what nuclear weapons are. The most destructive weapon the world has ever seen. Next year will mark 80 years since 2 American atomic bombs killed an estimated of 120,000 inhabitants of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A comparable number died of burn and radiation injuries in the months and years that followed. Today's nuclear weapons have far greater destructive power. They can kill millions and would impact the climate catastrophically. A nuclear war could destroy our civilization. The fates of those who survived the infernos of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were long concealed and neglected. In 1956, local Hibakusha Association, along with victims of nuclear weapon tests in the Pacific, formed the Japan Confederation of A and H Bomb Sufferers Organization. This name was shortened to Nihon Hidankyo. It would become the largest and most influential Hibakusha organization in Japan. The core of Alfred Nobel's vision was the belief that committed individuals can make a difference. In awarding this year's Nobel Peace Prize to Nihon Hidankyo, the Norwegian Nobel Committee wishes to honor all survivors who, despite physical suffering and painful memories, have chosen to use their costly experience to cultivate hope and engagement for peace. Nihon Hidankyo has provided thousands of witness accounts, issued resolutions and public appeals, and sent annual delegations to the United Nations and a variety of peace conferences to remind the world of the pressing need for nuclear disarmament. One day, the Hibakusha will no longer be among us as witnesses to history. But with a strong culture of remembrance and continued commitment, new generations in Japan are carrying forward the experience and the message of the witnesses. They are inspiring and educating people all over the world. In this way, they are helping to maintain the nuclear taboo, a precondition of a peaceful future for humanity. The decision to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2024 to Nihon Hidankyo is securely anchored in Alfred Nobel's will. This year's prize joins a distinguished list of peace prizes that the committee has previously awarded to champions of nuclear disarmament and control. The Nobel Peace Prize for 2024 fulfills Alfred Nobel's desire to recognize efforts of the greatest benefit to humankind. Thank you.
Stoltalsnes, Norwegian TV2. With all the conventional military conflicts going on in the world right now, what, if any, is the signal from the Nobel Committee to world leaders and the conflicting parties?
Our message to world leaders all over the world is that the messages, the stories and testimonies of the Hibakusha is an important reminder of how unacceptable the use of nuclear weapons is. We should listen to their voices, and I hope all leaders take the time to listen to the painful and dramatic stories of the Hibakusha that reminds us that these weapons should never be used again, ever.
NRK. I think it's safe to say that you defied most of the speculations this year. Why this kind of prize this year?
When we look at the developments and the conflicts around the world, we see how crucial it is to uphold a nuclear taboo, to uphold the norm saying nuclear weapons should never be used again. The Nihon, Hidankyo and the Hibakusha is crucial in this context. All states have a responsibility of non-use, and those stories are important in that matter.
Have you been in contact with the winners this year, and what were their reactions?
Unfortunately, we have not been able to contact this year's laureate yet, but we hope to do so very soon.
You have yourself said that it's a special year because of the raging conflicts going on. In what way was this year special and more difficult than ours?
I think there's many people around the world that see the dark skies on the horizon, conflicts many places. But with this prize, we also want to lift, we are a global community, and the threat of nuclear weapons could threaten us all.
NTB, has, and if so, how has the rhetoric around nuclear weapons lately, especially from Russia, impacted this year's decision?
It is very clear that threats of using nuclear weapons are putting pressure on the important international norm, the taboo of using nuclear weapons. And therefore, it is alarming to see how threats of use is also damaging this norm. To uphold an international strong taboo against the use is crucial for all of humanity.
Hello, Bogdan Radajewski from the Polish television. I want to ask a question. Is that kind of prize actually a judgment from the Nobel Committee that the threat of nuclear weapons being actually used in an open conflict is now a real perspective to be considered?
All words or deeds taken to reduce the nuclear taboo is dangerous for humanity. This year's prize is a prize that focuses on the necessity of upholding this nuclear taboo. And we have all a responsibility, particularly the nuclear powers.
Thank you. I'm Makiko Yanada from the Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun. As you mentioned, now the 80 years has passed since the usage of the atomic bomb, and the number of survivors are decreasing greatly due to the passing of the time. So, what kind of effect, what kind of encouraging effect do you expect to encourage to deliver the messages by those survivors and also encourage the movement around the world? What kind of momentum do you expect from this year's decision?
We and the Norwegian Nobel Committee see how new generations in Japan is also taking on the responsibilities to tell the stories from August 1945. And as I said in the speech, how new generations, together with the witnesses, are able to inspire and educate people all over the world is crucial to uphold this nuclear taboo against the use of nuclear weapons.
You have just been listening to the chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, Jorgen Watne Frydnes, who was announcing the recipient of the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize. And it was awarded to Nihon Hidankyo. That is a Japanese grassroots organization that fights against the spread of nuclear weapons and against the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Now, we do have our Jonah Hull, who is live from just outside the venue, or inside, I beg your pardon, inside, Jonah, the venue where the announcement was being made. Jonah, let's walk through this together. To be very clear to our viewers, 13 minutes ago, we had no idea who was going to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So it has been awarded to this group called the Nihon Hidankyo, and among them, or central, I should say, to their work, are the Hibakusha, who are the surviving victims of the nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And through their testimony, Jonah, they are trying to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons.
Yes, good summary. That's what we're told. I've got the citation here. We've just been listening to it from the chairman of the 5-person Norwegian Nobel Committee, defying once again this year the fevered speculation ahead of this announcement that it would somehow be reflective, the Nobel Peace Prize this year, of ongoing wars around the world, in particular perhaps in the Middle East. There was a lot of suggestion that it would go to some party involved somehow in or around that conflict, but no, it has been awarded, as you say, to this Japanese group, the Hibakusha. 79 years it is now since August 1945, when atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The committee noting that their work in recalling their stories, this group, have helped us to describe, they say, the indescribable, to think the unthinkable and grasp the incomprehensible, and they have collectively contributed to something known as the nuclear taboo, this very powerful international norm that has built up in the last 7 decades against the use of nuclear weapons. And the committee noting with concern that it is alarming today that this taboo is under pressure, they say. It was mentioned in the questions there whether they had been influenced by the rhetoric coming from the Kremlin. I think by implication that certainly is the case. The nuclear powers are modernizing and upgrading their arsenals, says the citation. New countries appear to be preparing to acquire nuclear weapons, and threats are being made to use nuclear weapons.
Jonah, I'm going to surprise you with this, because we've been surprised by the result. You have covered the conflict in Ukraine, where up to very recently there have been threats made to use nuclear weapons. So I wonder, as somebody like yourself who's covered numerous conflicts, including this one most recently where nuclear weapons have been threatened, I just wonder how you take this in.
I mean, I think that's clearly the context within which this decision arises. The committee views a world at war, perhaps at unprecedented levels in recent times now, from the Middle East to Ukraine to Myanmar to Sudan and further abroad than that. One of the points of speculation had been that they might have decided indeed not to award this prize at all this year. That has happened 19 times since it was inaugurated in the late 19th century, including during both world wars, as a statement about a world at war. They've decided instead to avoid potential controversy by awarding it to a number of nominees, we understood, involved in the wars in the Middle East that would have created controversy on one side or the other. They have gone with what will be considered a safe choice, but nevertheless carefully reflecting this world at war when we consider nuclear issues arise, not just in Russia and Ukraine, but also in Iran. It is a very clear prize nomination, or prize declaration that fits within the will of Alfred Nobel, aimed at efforts to achieve, it says, a world free of nuclear weapons. The Nobel Committee wishes to honour all survivors, despite their physical suffering and painful memories, who have chosen to use their costly experience to cultivate hope and engagement for peace. And in so citing them, it fits within the context of the will of Alfred Nobel, efforts towards ending conflict in the world, conflict resolution, human rights always playing a very significant part of that.
Al Jazeera's Jonah Hull reporting from Oslo, and it bears repeating the point that you were making. the Nobel Committee defying, once again, expectations, awarding this prize to a grassroots Japanese organization that fights against the use of nuclear weapons in a year where we have seen conventional weapons be so deadly across many battlefields. The Middle East, yes, but also Ukraine, Sudan, and there are others. Jonah Ho, that's more of a talking point for guests as we work our way through this. Thank you very much, Jonah.